What is truly the best injection site for your GLP-1? And is there actual data that might help prove that one site is better than the other? I'm gonna share that with you guys today. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Brittany. I have lost 115 pounds over the course of almost 3 years. I have about a week until my 3-year anniversary. And here on my channel, I share everything from weekly updates to data and research that I find, personal stories, news updates that are going on in the GLP-1 world, pretty much everything. So if you want to talk and hear about GLP-1s in a relatable, down-to-earth, sort of real, no sugarcoating way, then please hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment, a like. It all helps my channel out so much. And come join us over on the Facebook group. I have a free encouragement Facebook group over there. It's always linked below that you can come and talk to like-minded GLP-1 users and get some tips and tricks and, you know, just have a community. So we'd love to have you join us over there. Now, let's go ahead and jump right on into injection sites, if they really matter and how they really work. So there's a lot of talk about GLP-1 injection sites, right? Some people love the stomach, some people love the thigh. The three main injection sites are the abdomen, the thigh, and the back of your arm. And what is the difference between them, right? So the abdomen is obviously thought of as the easiest one to do by yourself. It has the fastest absorption rate, which often can lead you to having more side effects. It also is the most consistent absorption rate at the beginning of your shot cycle. So think 2-3 days after your shot. The abdomen has the most consistent, and it's got the ability to rotate sites within that same site pretty easily. So as long as you avoid the 2 inches right around your belly button, because there's not enough tissue and there's a lot of muscular tissue around there, but 2 inches out from your belly button, you can pretty much go in a circle and, you know, get many weeks out of your abdomen without ever using the same exact spot once. So it is often thought to be the easiest of the 3. The thigh is also very convenient. It's easy to access, and again, pretty easy for doing on your own. It does have a much slower absorption rate, which often leads to less side effects. So a lot of people like the thigh just for that one simple fact. Most people report that the abdomen gives them the most side effects. It absorbs quickly in the abdomen, so you get that big shot of the med at the beginning of your shot cycle, and then you've got side effects. So that's the thigh and the abdomen. And then the back of the arm is obviously the hardest to do on your own by yourself. I do have a tip where I just kind of prop my arm up on the back of a chair and do it that way. But side effects for the back of the arm are similar to the abdomen. It's slightly less side effects, but when we're talking about absorption rates of the GLP-1 on the different injection sites, the abdomen is the fastest and the thigh is the slowest. So the arm is kind of right in the middle of both of them, and you can think of it that way for side effects as well. You're gonna have the most side effects in your abdomen, middle of the road in your arm, and the least amount in your thigh. Now, is that the exact same for everybody? No, but that's how the majority is. So take that with a grain of salt, of course. Now, for this, we are gonna look at this in 2 different ways. We're gonna talk about a personal experiment that I have done over the past few weeks, and we are also gonna talk about pharmacokinetics, which if you do not know what that is, we're essentially going to be talking about the bioavailability of the med that is present in your body after the different injection sites. So there was a study that was done. It was a randomized crossover study of the exenatide test. And then there's also one that was done on the taspoglutide test, which is another GLP-1 receptor agonist that has been studied for this exact reason. And then there also was one done on tirzepatide as well. So all of these studies looked at the bioavailability, i.e. you inject it in your arm and then you test the amount of the medication that is present in your body over the course of your shot cycle, which is typically a week. So they did this for all 3 injection sites. And overall, the abdomen had the lowest amount of bioavailability in your body following injection. This is not crazy to hear, right? So it actually makes a lot of sense. The thing that doesn't make sense is that the arm was actually found to have the highest amount of bioavailability, with which the arm being sort of in the middle, like the middle ground in terms of absorption rates. You would think that it would go in order of the abdomen, the arm, the thigh, but that is not what these studies found. So it mostly aligns with what we know, right? The abdomen has faster absorption rates, which means, like I mentioned, you're gonna get this big burst of medication, which is why a lot of people, because your body, you put that in your stomach and your body like absorbs it real quickly. And so you're gonna get this burst, this sort of hit of the GLP-1, and you're gonna have more side effects, and you're gonna feel really all of the effects of the GLP-1 for a few days following your injection site. And then you're gonna get to days 5, 6, 7, and most of it's gonna be gone because your body absorbed it super quickly. It got all of the medicine at once because it absorbed it all at once, and there's not much left for the end of your shot cycle. Whereas if you inject it in your arm, which was found in this study to have the highest level of bioavailability, you inject it to your arm, it takes longer for it to absorb. So the amount of medicine, so, you know, it absorbs a little bit, so you get a little hit. It absorbs some more, you get a little hit. It takes so long for the body to absorb all of the medication that the amount that is actually processing through your body is more even throughout the entire week cycle. So people that inject in the back of their arm and in the thigh notice that they don't have as much of a drop off of medication effectiveness towards the end of the week, whereas people that do it in their stomach do. Now, the half-life time, right? So everybody knows that GLP-1s have a half-life, meaning by days 5, 6, 7, like I just mentioned, the amount of medicine that is still left in your body dwindles. Every day it gets less and less, okay? So what we know from these studies and through a lot of personal experience is that when you inject it in your stomach, you notice more of a drop. Now, some people love injecting in their stomach. I, for one, am a current stomach injector because I like feeling it work those first few days, right? Whereas I notice that if I inject somewhere else, it's more even, so I don't get as big of a hit. You know what I mean? The sort of jolt, the hit of the medicine that we're looking for, it doesn't happen for me personally as much as it does in my thigh and my arm. But to sort of wrap this up, right? What you get, to wrap the study up, what you get when you inject in the arm and the thigh is the medication providing a more consistent level of the med for longer. Meaning, at the beginning of the week, you might not get this big hit, but you're gonna get a slow hit that trickles and continues throughout the week, because as the initial absorption is sort of half-lifing and starting to go down, the later absorption rates are still kind of carrying you through. Whereas with the stomach, if you inject a ton at one, you inject it, it absorbs it all at once, you're already sort of working on the half-life in the beginning of your cycle. And then when you get to the lower times, it's already sort of absorbed and used, and the bioavailability of the med in your body is less, okay? Now, that's a lot of sciencey crap, right? How does this relate to real personal life? So I actually did an experiment over the past couple of weeks. I first found this study about 3 weeks ago, and I was like, let's decide if this is actually true, because I don't feel like I had ever really paid enough attention to say if this was true for me, right? If I injected in one area, how I felt towards the end of the week. I do notice when I am more hungry towards the end of the week, but I've never really directly correlated it to whatever site I used at that time. So that's what I decided to do over the past 3 weeks. Now, I am very used to injecting in my stomach. For the past probably year and a half, I've been doing my stomach pretty consistently the entire time. I rotate around my belly button 2 inches out. That's just what the pattern that I have fell into. So what I decided to do was do my stomach 1 week, my arm 1 week, and my thigh 1 week, and to take notes on how I felt towards the end of the week and how I felt towards the beginning of the week. So we're gonna start with my stomach. The first week I injected in my stomach, and I as I always do, very quickly noticed that bolt. So for me, what that looks like is I noticed that like I take shots on Thursday, on Friday and Saturday, I can't eat as much. I definitely can't have certain foods like lettuce really does not agree with me. I've mentioned that before, roughage, mostly lettuce though, so I can't eat salads those days. Alcohol, if it was a time where I wanted to go out and have a margarita, Fridays and Saturdays are not those days for me. It just does not process in my body well. And I noticed that like I always do, okay? Then, which is the interesting part, I decided to, again, take notes on how I felt throughout the entire week. Come Monday, so Monday would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, day 4. I already noticed that my stomach was growling, which is not something that, it's something that I experience now, right? But I thought that was just kind of the point that I was at in my journey. So 4 days into my shot cycle, I started to experience some stomach growling, and it only got worse. And by stomach growling, I mean also not just like being hungry, but also wanting more food, thinking about food more often. I really took note on how my food noise coverage was. And towards the end of my shot cycle with my stomach, I did notice more cravings. I would reach for like a piece of candy more often than I normally would have. And so every day it got a little bit worse until my shot day. The next shot that I did was my arm. And I actually filmed a TikTok for this one when I was doing it on the little trick of leaning on your arm on the back of a chair to help you out. And so that was the week that I did my arm. Now, with my arm, I did not notice the sort of initial burst, right? So I actually didn't notice any side effects at all with my arm. I wasn't hungry, but I wasn't overly full. I didn't have that heavy feeling in my stomach. We actually did go to there's a wood fire pizza place that we like to go to occasionally, and I did have a hard cider. I was like, I'm gonna test this out, and it was fine. But I did notice that on Monday, I was like, okay, Monday was the day with my stomach that it felt bad, or I started to get hungry or whatever. On Monday, I did not have that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm still great. I'm still going, we're not overly full. We're not super hungry. We're able to manage our portions. But Tuesday is when it hit me with the arm. So it lasted one day longer, or the half-life sort of side effects kicked in one day after the stomach did for me personally, okay? Then again, every day it got worse. However, it did not get as bad. So by Thursday, typically on Thursday, I do my shot at night. I've mentioned that before. I'll do it right before bed. And typically on Thursday is for lunchtime Thursday is the day that I will have, like if I want Chick-fil-A or something like that, I will go get it. I don't do it the meal before, but I'll do it lunch before. Now, I'm usually more hungry when I'm doing my stomach and I can eat, a whole Chick-fil-A meal. I was not able to do that when I did my arm. So I was hungrier, but it was not as hungry as with my arm, okay? And then I started the shot cycle over again and did my thigh. Now, I had not done my thigh in a very, very long time. If you've been around the entire time of my GLP-1 journey, then you know that the thigh is what I always used to do consistently, never did anything else. I switched between my thighs, and that was what I used to lose most of the weight, was my thigh. Now my thought process behind that in the beginning was because I had had a tummy tuck and I didn't know if I had enough fat tissue there to make it work effectively in my stomach, which, caveat, disclaimer, whatever, yes, can very much so mean that my stomach does not have enough subcutaneous tissue to inject or to absorb at a slower rate. So my stomach might absorb way faster than other people's do, just because I don't have a ton of subcutaneous fat there. They cut it all off. I don't know what to tell you. So I injected in my thigh that week. Now, this is when I'm going to get into the fact that I'm actually quite the opposite of what the study suggests, okay? And I want to hear if you guys are as well. So when I injected into my thigh, I, again, pretty instantly noticed the effect. It was not like the stomach, so it wasn't as fast as the stomach. It wasn't as vicious as the stomach. I didn't have nausea like I sometimes do with my stomach, but I noticed it, whereas with the arm, I did not. So if you remember, we just said that the bioavailability is allegedly the highest in the arm, which suggests that the arm would give you the slowest absorption rate, but all other data suggests that the thigh gives you the slowest absorption rate. But then my personal experience tells me that the thigh absorbs faster for me than the arm does. So this can all be very personal, right? And very patient depending. So I injected in my thigh. I did not feel like, I remember thinking, my husband asked if we wanted to go have Mexican, which is where I typically get a margarita. And I remember thinking, I'm not feeling the greatest. That's probably not the best decision. So I didn't even try at that time. Whereas with the arm, I felt like I could. And with, as far as like when I got hungry again, I didn't have any nausea. I didn't have any weird symptoms or anything like that. What I did notice with the thigh, which is one that I did not notice with the arm or with the stomach, is that I got constipated. So I actually went several days without going to the bathroom. I think that the thigh for me is the magic one, the one that slows down my digestion just enough, the one that hits me just at the right time, and the one that covers my food noise the longest. So if we go back, the stomach, Monday morning, I was hungry. The arm, Tuesday morning, I was hungry. The thigh, I never got hungry. My stomach never growled. I never felt like I needed a larger portion. I didn't reach for candy at all. And that was actually Halloween week. It was last week, as I'm filming this the week after Halloween. I didn't eat any Halloween candy. I didn't feel a craving for it. Whereas with the stomach, like I said, I typically do end up reaching for candy or something, you know, like a small little treat or whatever. I didn't do that with my thigh. So even though the data suggests that the arm should be the best in terms of longevity of the med in your body, for me personally, it's my thigh. And so that's why, it's the reason I wanted to kind of make this video, because it is important when you're reading studies and you're looking at data, it is a average or sort of a median middle of the road of what happens for most people. There are always outliers. There are always people that have different experiences at different sites, right? And I think it's important to try all of the different sites and figure out which one works best for you. I liked this little experiment. I had been doing my stomach, and now I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna do that anymore. So I actually did my thigh again this week, and I'm noticing the same thing. I'm noticing a more even structure of the effectiveness of the meds in my body. I didn't have some crazy side effects. I even ate a salad on Saturday. Typically, if I had done my stomach and then gone and eaten a salad, I would vomit. It just always came back up. So I am learning, or I have learned 3 years into this journey, that the stomach is not effective for me. And so it's effective in terms of making the weight or the med work quickly, but it's not effective for me and how I want to feel on this journey. So try out all the different ones, take notes. I'm a big advocate of keeping a journal. You guys know that. Take 3 weeks and use each site, rotate through each site, especially if you're new on this journey. If one site doesn't work, I mean, I have heard people say, I feel like I wasted a shot because I did my arm and I don't feel anything. But how are you going to know that if you don't try it, right? And you could say you should do what works best for you, or you could, if one works, then why even try the other ones? But how do you know if you don't try the other ones? How do you know that that is the most effective for you? So definitely give it a go. Rotate through the sites, write everything down like I did so that you're able to look back on it and make the decision that is best for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a girl who loves to research GLP-1s, but I do find that writing things down and really looking at yourself in terms of how you react versus what people on the internet tell you they react is super beneficial. And so I always recommend doing that. So I want to know what you guys thought of this little video, little study here. It was really eye-opening for me. I've talked about, injection sites a few different times on the channel, because, one doctor will say this, and then another professional will say this, and this one's better. No, this one's better. And there's been a lot of back and forth. And what I think this experiment shows is that everybody is different. Everybody's best dose, yes, but also injection site. Can you talk, Brittany? I just learned how to do that today. But anyway, is going to be different, right? And we all have to take that into consideration when we are planning out our own journey. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Come join us over on the Facebook group. Links to everything down below, Orderly Meds Facebook group, supplements and stuff that I take in the Amazon affiliate link. All of that is down below if you are interested in any of that. And I will see you guys in the next video, which will be on Monday for an update. Have a great weekend, guys. Go do something fun with your family. The leaves are changing outside. It's beautiful. Go enjoy it. Have a great day, guys. Bye.